Hi everyone, thank you very much for stopping by and for returning to the grim, dark future that knows only war. Some news from me, I've signed up for a local 40k league, which will see us through, hopefully, to the end of 9th, start of 10th edition. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the community post that I put out, this does mean there'll be a slight shift in emphasis over the next few weeks, as I'm hoping to do mini-series, this being the first, looking at the army I've selected, the reasons behind that, and then tracking my progress through the league itself. This video is going to be mostly focused on my army selection and what the league actually is. Now, between submission of my list and the start of the actual league taking place, we've seen the balanced datasheet come out from Games Workshop, which has somewhat changed the approach I wanted to take, albeit, as far as I'm aware, at time of recording, my list remains fixed as it was, so I'm not going to have the opportunity to make any changes unless contacted and told otherwise by the event organizer. So, what is the league? Well, as I say, it's a local league. There's about 30 people taking part, so we're seeing 4 divisions, each of 6 people. This is the second iteration of the league and the first time that I'll be taking part, which means I'll be joining in right at the bottom in the Challenger division. That suits me down to the ground. It means I hopefully won't be bashed out in 2 turns every week, but that remains a very real possibility that could happen. Throughout the league, we'll have 11 weeks in order to play 5 games. So what am I going to be up against? Well, I know that my first game, because I've already arranged it, is going to be against the Space Wolves. Lists are open. I know it's going to be very aggressive, lots of Wolfen, guys with jump packs, all that sort of stuff. So keeping them off me is going to be difficult. I've played the guy who runs the Space Wars a couple of times before, and it's never ended well. So I'm not expecting huge change here, but we shall see. The other forces I'm up against are Chaos Knights, Imperial Knights, Custodes, and Dark Angels. And I do understand that the Dark Angels have been weakened a little bit. They were expecting to run a whole host of Terminators, but they've been weakened a little bit in the data sheet, so maybe I've got a little bit more of a chance than I otherwise would have done. But again, only time will tell, and we'll see how we get on. There is promotion and relegation from the various divisions. So from the Challenger division, you can only be promoted because it's the bottom one, and from the top division, obviously there's only relegation, not promotion. But there's normally a prize for the winner of each league, or there certainly was last time round. So, on to the list, and what am I actually taking? Well, to continue with the largely Imperial theme, with the exception of the Chaos Knights, in my particular league, I'm running a Salamander successor chapter, and I'll be taking Long Range Marksman and Master Artisan as my abilities. Now, I wrote the list with Codex Warfare in mind, with Promethean Creed in mind, as my core choices for secondaries. Codex Warfare has been changed today at time of recording, so it's no longer a case of sit in Devastator Doctrine, kill units with heavy weapons, score loads of points. There's a cap of 5 points per doctrine. So my army perhaps isn't as balanced around that as I would like, which means I've perhaps got a little bit more thinking to do. However, we'll see how it goes. And with that, let's see the list. Looking at the HQ choices first, here we have the Warlord, a Primaris Lieutenant with Shield, Neovolkite Pistol, and Power Sword. So this chap gives me a reroll of 1s for rolls to wound. Be quite useful, and the Shield gives him a 4-up invuln. Again, quite useful should someone be hunting characters and my Warlord. Moving down the line, we have a Librarian. He's going to be using Drake skin and fire shield to give my units a little bit more resilience, both of those drawn from the Salamander spellbook. And finally, last but by no means least, a firstborn lieutenant, again giving me one of those reroll opportunities, and having 2 lieutenants gives me the opportunity to have a couple of castles depending on what sort of areas of the board I need to try and control. So this was a list design around the idea of using Codex Warfare and Promethean Creed. May need a bit of a rethink, but that was the intent with this list selection and what I'm stuck with. Next up, let's have a look at the troops. And firstly, we've got a unit of 10 assault intercessors, the sergeant having a plasma pistol. These guys are to provide a bit of forward pressure on enemy advanced deploy units, but will also help me hopefully keep enemy assault units away from my gun line elements. We also have a unit of 6 normal intercessors with bolt rifles, a little bit of fire support with the rapid fire weapons, can be used to screen other stuff, and with access to transhuman, can be a little bit more resilient than the old firstborn tactical squads. Talking of tactical squads, I'm running 3 of those. All of the sergeants are equipped the same, so the models are just there to differentiate. So really they're here rocking power swords and stormbolters. This unit has a missile launcher. Unit number 2, multi-melter, and unit number 3 back to the missile launchers. I do like the versatility of the missile launcher, giving me an anti-tank weapon, but also the opportunity to deal with large numbers of hordes coming forward, something my army can struggle a little bit with generally. Next up, we're turning to the elites. First unit, 5 scouts, sniper rifles, camo cloaks. Sergeant has a thunderhammer, if he ever wants to come into focus. The advanced deploy really useful and will help me grab some points for Promethean Creed. Supporting them in the elite category, 2 dreadnoughts. I'm going to run these as venerable dreadnoughts. They've both got multi-melters and heavy flamers attached to their close combat weapons, so a little bit of all-round burny potential and perfect to fit in with the Salamander ethos. For fast attack, 3 units, each an individual assault bike, all of them rocking multi-melters just to add to that firepower. Also a little bit of speed and mobility to help pressure my opponent and also try and nab some ground early doors if that is what's required. We finish off by looking at the heavy support options, and these are the compulsory section of my Arc of Omen detachment. So, Devastator Squad number 1, armed with 3 grav cannons and a missile launcher. Coming down the line, Devastator Squad number 2, 2 plasma cannons, 2 missile launchers. They're supported by 2 units of 3 Eradicators armed with the normal guns, allowing them to move and shoot some stuff, so lots of firepower coming here. And last but by no means least, picked purely because it's cool, the Land Raider Redeemer. It's got a multi-melter, it's got assault cannon, it's got big flamers, it's got a stormbolter on it, it's got every gun I can possibly glue on it because they're free, so they're in the list. So there we go, that is the list that I'm going to be taking for this league. I will let you know how I get on. As I say, first game is going to be against Space Wolves. That's going to be a tough game. Keeping them off me is going to be very difficult, but we shall see how it goes, what lessons I learnt, and really how I can apply those lessons, perhaps to other war games too. That's it from me for today. Thank you very much for listening for this long. Do consider subscribing if you want to keep up to date with how I get on in the league and with other thoughts around wargaming generally. Otherwise, I'm returned to the old world. Have a great day.